Welcome back to the Sounds Like Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Henne. I'm here today with Jacqueline Williams, who is a watchman, intercessor, podcast host, and author. She is called to dedicate her life to God. She's been featured in Canvas Rebel magazine, and she is a woman who has overcome obstacles and hardships. She has not only survived, she became an overcomer. Living in Mississippi, she is a mother, dreamer, a believer in the hope to rise up to defeat life challenges by not being a victim, but to become victorious. She described herself as a charismatic person who is an outgoing, energetic, and likable personality that seems to naturally draw other people to her. She has a humble spirit and a great sense of humor. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thank you for having me on this day.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. I love so many things in your bio that, I'm not called to, I'm called to be an overcomer. I'm not a victim. I am victorious. And that is such the biggest message of this show is living in the freedom of Christ. And how do we live not as victims, but as victors? Because, things happen in life, right? We all have our stories, um, but we can't stay stuck in the past and we can't stay stuck under the influence of those negative things that happened to us. God called us to live from Christ's victory. So I would love to hear more of your story.
Well, I don't want to tell everything because if I tell everything, they won't go out and get the book. Uh, so I tell the main summary of the book. What's the book about? My mom. It was this drug called thalidomide that was taken in the 1950s and 60s, and it came from Europe. And this drug was marketed in 46 states. And this drug was an over-counter drug that you could get without prescription, but the FDA did not uh, approve it in the United States. So this drug was used for mothers that were pregnant and had a very bad case of morning sickness. And so this drug did a lot of worldwide damage to babies. The way it got into the United States, this man by the name of Richard Morel, he had a pharmacy in Europe, and he sold, where he distributed about 2.5 million pills to women clinics and doctors' offices. So that's how it got into the United States. So this drug did a worldwide damage, as I said, to a worldwide damage to many babies. About 10 million babies died after birth from this drug, and those that survived, the drug did damage to their. They had no arms, no limbs, no legs. It damaged their private parts, internal parts. They had some of them had disfigured faces and couldn't hear or see. So this drug was a worldwide damage to many babies. And so my mother, she became pregnant and she had a very bad case of morning sickness. So she went to this women's clinic and they prescribed to her the drug thalidomide. And so I was born in 1968. And when I was born, my feet was turned backwards. And my mom had to lay me on a stretcher. And my parents took me from doctors to doctors, which told them that I wouldn't live to reach adulthood or I would never walk. So this lady by the name of Hazel Foster, she was like an angel to my parents. She took them to a hospital called LeBonner's Children's Hospital, which is in Memphis, Tennessee. And there was hope by the grace of God for me. They were able to turn my feet around. I've had 24 major surgeries. I spent almost a lot of my childhood in the hospital. When I reached the age of schooling age, I was not able to go to school because of the many surgeries and scheduled number of surgeries I had to have. And so I spent uh, a lot of my time at this hospital called Crippled Children's Hospital, which was a hospital for parents that lived a long distance away, that they could leave their children there without any cost to them. And so I was one of the children that was left there amongst doctors and nurses and all the other children. And God always made a way for me there. He made a way for me to go to school there because Crippled Children's Hospital was like a boarding school there. And I stayed there until it was time for me to go to Le Bonheur. Le Bonheur was a pediatric hospital where the children, for children that had chronic diseases, and that's where all the surgeries were at Le Bonheur. So I had to stay at Crippled Children's Hospital. That was my home away from home, and all the nurses, they took very good care of us. They would wake us up in the morning times and put us in our wheelchairs and beds and push us into the dining hall. We would eat breakfast. We would have eggs and oatmeal and toast. And after that, they would put us back in our beds and wheelchairs and roll us into this big old room. It was like the replica of the White House. And that's where we got our schooling at. That's where we went to school at and got our teaching and everything. So I went from a wheelchair, from a scooter to a wheelchair, crutches, braces, and I had a long way after the doctors turned my feet around. I still had a long journey of, walking on my own. And so I had my last surgery when I was in the 6th grade. And after that, I was still walking kind of on crutches and braces. And I was kind of where I was able to go to public school then. And after the year after, when I went into the 7th grade, that's when the doctors, after I went for my checkup, they released me from the braces and crutches. So I was able to walk on my own by the grace of God. The Lenamide affected me, as now I am 57 years old, when the doctor said I wouldn't reach adulthood, but God has the last say.
That's
And
right.
and I'm 57 years old, and I'm gonna tell you how thalidomide affected me. Uh, I'm short. It stumped my growth, so I stand 4 feet tall. I walk with a limp. I can walk on my own, but I can't bend my legs, and so I walk with a limp, and I have to use my hands for everything, to get up off the couch or go up the stairs. Um, it affected my legs as far as bending my legs. I can't bend my legs. It affected my heart. I had to have open heart surgery because one of my valves had closed up, so they had to immediately take me into surgery. So it damaged my heart. It didn't disfigure my face. I have all my hands and my legs. My legs are short, but my arms are long. It didn't damage my hearing or my eyes or anything, thank God. And that drug is still out there, but it's used for cancer and other things like that. And I pray every day that, it doesn't affect anybody else.
Right.
So I don't want to tell all my story of the rest of the
Yeah,
part
no.
of my personal life that was in there. But
So I imagine, having a childhood like that, and, and lifelong impact, as you were sharing just here, there's a lot of forgiveness, I would imagine, that had to go with that. How did God walk you through, or how did you come to the point where you were able to forgive, forgive the doctors, forgive it, because I mean, if we hold unforgiveness, right, that holds power. The unforgiveness holds power over us, and that holds power over us. But to live in victory, We have to be able to forgive. How?
Well, see, my whole story is I had to forgive because
Yeah.
my mom, I tell a little bit of that. My mom, she didn't want me, so she left me with my father. So my father was the one that had to continue to take me to my doctor's offices, doctor's appointments. And so after a while, he couldn't drive, so somebody had Miss Foster's husband had to take him, back and forth to Memphis, to Ripley, Mississippi, which was an hour and 45 minutes. And so after a while, when I was able to come out and really go home, uh, my father and I got an apartment, and he started out to be a good father, but after a while he became an alcoholic and began to abuse me very
Mm-hmm.
bad. He would beat me every day. But to answer your question about all the forgiveness, I told God, I didn't have unforgiveness in my heart, but what I did have, I had hurt. I had a hurt heart and I had bleeding wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And what I told God, I said I was just gonna block everything in my mind, about that. And what I did, because I had to grow up really fast because I didn't have any parents in my life. I didn't have my immediate family in my life. So I had to grow up really, really fast. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was looking for love in the wrong places because I never experienced love. And
Right.
so what I decided to do is to mind block everything and jump into all these relationships, put a band-aid, so to speak, on these wounds and hurt my hurt heart by jumping in all these relationships. And so I said, well, if I do that, that'll I can move on, and that'll
Right.
help the hurt. I can heal through that. But jumping into all these relationships concerning dating and friendship with other people, the same abuse of pattern fell into those relationships from my father. And I didn't really care about myself. I just wanted to fit in. I didn't care how anybody treated me. I just wanted to fit in a place. So and without and be loved, and knowing that these abusive relationships wasn't love, but I wanted to fit in, and but one day God spoke to me. I heard his voice and he said, Jackie, nobody can love you more than I can, better than I can. I'm the only one can give you the love that you're looking for. That's what he was saying to me. And I said, okay, God, you said you are the only one can give me the love that I'm looking for. And so I let everybody go. I let everything go. And I said, okay, God, I'm gonna try you out to see. But still, after that, I I still went on, and I couldn't love God. I didn't know how to love God. I didn't know how to love myself. So after he allowed me to just go on. You know how God will allow you to go on because he give you that free will, and he
Mm-hmm.
allow you to go on. So I kept going on, trying in relationships, trying to find that love. And it was dangerous because these relationships could have took my life. My life was on the line. Guys would beat me, physically beat me, or mentally, and the friends I hung out, they manipulated me or took advantage of me. I went through all of that, and I had to go through all of that because that was the plan of God, so he could get the glory out of it. He was writing my story. We have to go through some things. We just have to go through, and it doesn't feel good. It does, and you don't understand why. But God was with me through all of that. My dad, he used to leave me at home by myself with the TV on, the lights off, and I would talk to God. at about what age of 5 or 6. I would talk to God, or He would leave me with other people that would put me upstairs, and they be doing their thing downstairs, and I still would talk to God. One time He would leave me with babysitters, and this one girl, she had got a pillow and put it over my face. She was going to smother me. But God, see, the enemy, the devil, was trying to kill me from the womb on out, because he knew God had a purpose and a plan for my life, and he was trying to destroy that, but he couldn't. When he knows you have a calling on your life, a special calling, he would try everything in his power to stop it, but he can't stop what God has. So to tell you that, what I had to do was I had to literally, so to speak, have a funeral for my past. I had to bury my past. I had to put it in the ground, put the dirt over it, and have a funeral for it, and then ask God to give me the strength to walk away. And then I told God, I said, I'm not blaming anybody. It's me, oh God, standing in the need of prayer and help. Deliver me. You know, He had to give me an inner healing. He had to heal me and deliver me. See, it's like an example, like a person, when they have had a car accident, they survived the car accident, but they still have the injuries. You understand? So
Yes.
He had took me away from all the people. He had took me away from the environment. He had took me away from everything that hurted me, but I still had the hurt. I had punctured wounds. I had a hurting heart, bleeding wounds, and injuries. So after he did that, he had to give me an inner healing. So I told him to do a whole makeover in me. And so I had to survive it, and then I had to overcome it where it wouldn't bother me, and affect my future, to move forward into my future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, God is so amazing and creative and powerful that He can take even the not good things and people's sin against us and use it for good. And, we see that in your story, how He took all this junk, awful things, sin, human frailties and brokenness in other people that affected you in such a horrible way. But God, God was there, and God was with you, and God worked all that for the good. And there's such a message of hope there for people who are listening, who might be, in a situation or know somebody in a situation, that God is really there. God really is with you through it all. There is hope in God, there is freedom in God. And sometimes, as you said, we have to co labor in that. We have to forgive. you know, doesn't make what they did okay, but we have to forgive because we need to because we're called to overcome, and that's part of our overcoming and freedom process is forgiving. Part of that is leaning into the victory of Christ. Part of that is not losing hold of that hope. And I love that power in your story that you bring, that what, yeah, there's a lifelong, physical things going on here, but God is there, and God is with me, and God has called me with purpose. He uses all that junk from my past to bring a beacon of hope to people. Now, you have a website here. I'm going to put it up here. What can people find at your website?
Oh, they can find my book, which is Overcomer by Jacqueline Williams, on Amazon, and they can find my podcast as well. I didn't send my podcast link, but it's I think, yeah, it's on there as well. So those are the things they will find in my bio as well.
Awesome. So go ahead, go to her website. It's at the bottom of the screen here, short URL.at/HD9VA. Check out her podcast. Check out her book on Amazon, Overcomer. And thank you so much for joining me today. And don't forget to swipe, tap, or click over to DeborahHenne.com. Follow me on social on the X, Instagram, or Facebook at Deborah Henne Author. And let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, so they sound like freedom.